And for more, we're welcoming in former FBI Special Agent Rich Kolko. Rich, really appreciate you being here on this. And Mills, monitoring those two attacks on Thursday, that was just within hours of each other on that day. And that's on top of the IED bombers targeting protesters near Gracie Mansion in New York City last week. We saw the deadly shooting in Austin, Texas as well the week before. Are these disparate and unrelated incidents, or do you believe there is an increased threat level on U.S. soil during Operation Epic Fury?
Well, 4 attacks in 2 weeks, that is quite a uptick in threats and in carrying out actions. So I do believe that there is a risk. We have these self-radicalized groups or people that are sitting in their basements, they're watching the videos, they're talking on gaming apps, they're getting ideas. I think a big part of it is learning, what other people have done. When you talk about what happened at Old Dominion University, he specifically said he was interested in what Major Hassan had done at Fort Hood way back in 2009 when he'd gone on an Army base. And he seemed to mirror some of this, where he wanted to kill Army soldiers. And then jumping over to Michigan, if you remember just a few months ago up in Grand Blanc, there was a man who ran a truck into a LDS church because he had a problem with Mormons. It looks like these attackers literally went onto Wikipedia, learned about these attacks, mirrored them, and carried them out. So absolutely, I think there's an uptick in threats. As long as this operation is going on in the Middle East, it's going to continue to be a problem. But I think it's real important that while, as your last guest said, law enforcement is going to be maxed out, as is the intelligence community trying to track down these people, everybody's got a right to be concerned as a country that we're going to be see more of these attacks. I don't think people need to live their life in a panicked mode. Your chance, specifically individually being involved in one of these events, is very, very slim. So we have to keep it in context.
The man behind the Old Dominion shooting in particular, Mohammed Jallow, was convicted in 2016 of attempting to provide materials to ISIS. He was sentenced to 11 years. He was released early in 2024. Do we have any information as to why that would be, and why a man with a conviction like this would not be persistently on the Fed's radar?
It's difficult to be on the Fed's radar. He was on federal probation, which means he meets with the probation officer on a regular basis. Probation officers are trained to look out for any unusual activity, which they would then report to an investigating authority, in this case, the FBI, to say this person, may become a problem again. But we know recidivism is a problem for people coming out of prison. But when you think how many people have gone to prison for various charges, the investigators and the investigating teams just don't exist to follow these people and keep up with all of them. There has to be a predicate to start a new investigation. There has to be some sort of offense.
Meanwhile, in Michigan, the man who attacked the synagogue, or at least suspected of it, Ayman Mohammed Ghazali, naturalized citizen from Lebanon, recently losing his family in an Israeli airstrike on his home country. Is there any way our intelligence agencies would be aware of information like this?
That's a difficult one as well, especially when we talk about these independent people, these lone wolves. When you talk about a sleeper cell, you talk about a group, you talk about the mob, anything like that, the old Al-Qaeda groups, they were communicating, they were sharing, they were transferring money, they were traveling, they were doing things that investigators could follow up on. It made it actually easier. But when you've got one person who comes up with this idea on their own, it's very, very difficult for investigators to begin that investigation without that tip. That's why that see something, say something is so critical. Somebody's going to see that somebody's acting a little unusual, a little odd. We saw the man who went into the synagogue in Michigan had gone and bought, $2,000 worth of fireworks using his own personal credit card. And the FBI interviewed that store where he purchased them, and they said, not that unusual. We have people come in and buy $5,000 worth of fireworks all the time. He didn't exhibit anything that made him look that out of line that it would have necessitated picking up the phone and calling the police, unless he said something unusual while he was in that store.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.